Hi again everyone, Scott Player Pop Cult Fan here, and in this video I just got home from the theaters just a little while ago. I just saw the Wild Robot movie. Unfortunately, I cannot see it with my buddy Sean, but I saw it with my mom, and I'm glad I did, because this is a movie that really does tug at the heartstrings if you're a parent. This movie has some really good storytelling here in regards to this character that you're following, which is a robot, and this robot kind of crash lands onto this island. And at first, all the animals that are on this island, they fear the robot. They're calling it a monster, and they don't want anything to do with the robot. And I think it's a very fascinating tale of nature versus technology, in a sense that, it's an unknown factor that just, is in this island where all these animals are trying to survive on their own, and I think that's a very fascinating thing, because the robot, it's not it's trying to adapt, but it's kind of like a fish out of the water story for the robots, and it's trying to pick up the pieces. It's trying to learn, right? It's AI, and I think the actress that voices the robot, Lupita Nyong'o, she does a great job in this voice role as this robot, and I loved the character, because it was a very fascinating character to follow for this movie. And I love how we get to this point in the film where Roz, as she titles herself at a certain point while befriending the fox, she just goes on this journey as this parent figure to a baby goose. And right there, that's when the story really starts to pick up. That's where it picked up for me, and I was just completely hooked and fascinated with these characters and their relationship. And I have to give it to Pedro Pascal as the fox. Was his name really Think? The fox's name was Think. Okay. That's such a weird name for a fox, but okay. I liked him. I liked Pedro Pascal as the fox. He was definitely the character that I enjoyed the most. He had a lot of screen time, and I loved how we get all these different animals. We get so many different animals in this movie, ranging from foxes to grizzly bears, voiced by Mark Hamill, by the way. Mark Hamill voices a grizzly bear in this movie, and I thought he was a really fascinating presence on screen. I'll just say that. And I just really loved how at a certain point in the film, all the animals finally start to accept the robot after a certain point. And I loved that. I loved how this story was written. It was really well written, and the animation style too was just so fascinating and unique compared to anything else. Like, even compared to the Spider-Verse movies, for example, it's a very interesting animation style that worked really well with the world building and what this movie was trying to be. I thought it was so fascinating, and I want to talk about this at the end of the review, because this is something that I knew before seeing the film, and it's just so fascinating. But yeah, and I don't want to spoil anything, but when we get to the third act of this film, I thought it really amped up the tension, and while at the same time keeping that parental relationship and theming with Roz and the baby goose. and keeping that there while all this other stuff was going on was important to making you care about the characters, and I loved that. This movie was a tearjerker. I teared up a few times. I loved this film. It was so well done, and I want to talk about this now. The director is Chris Sanders. He directed the original Lilo and Stitch. You heard that right. The director of this movie is Chris Sanders. He directed Lilo and Stitch, and he voiced Stitch. Quite the talent there, who directed this film. He did such a phenomenal job with this film. I cannot believe that Chris Sanders directed this. And he did it so well done. Like, oh my goodness. The only thing I would say about this movie is that it does take a little while to get going. But other than that, I do not have any flaws with this film. It was well written. It had an amazing animation style that worked within the confines of this film. And I also like how when we get to the third act, they don't focus too much on the origin of the robot, while at the same time teasing it a little bit, potentially leading up to potential sequels of this film, which, this movie is based on a series of books, and there could be more story to tell down the road if this movie is successful enough at the box office. I'm sure that they will make sequels. I could definitely see this as a franchise starter, definitely. I thought this was so well done. And also, like, another actor in this movie I was surprised by was Bill Nighy. I liked his character in this film. I don't want to say anything about his character, but I loved having him in this voice role as well in this film, which definitely added to his sort of mentor kind of a character that he was. And that's all I'm gonna say. And I thought it was just so well done. So if I had to give this movie a grade, it would be an A+. I really don't have too many flaws other than the fact that it just took a little while to get going. And yeah, those are all my thoughts about this movie. I loved it. And I definitely want to, after seeing this movie, I really do want to be a parent someday. I really do. Hopefully someday I will be a parent to either a little boy or a little girl. I'm hoping for a little girl someday. And yeah, it tugged at the heartstrings. It really did. And I loved it. I highly recommend this movie to all ages, really. Like, kids will enjoy this. Adults will enjoy this. It's a movie that you can find something out of, whether you're an adult or a kid. Go and see it, please, with a family. And that should do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.